Call Dixon County Commission meeting to order for August 22nd, 2024. Please stand. Flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make motion to approve the agenda as printed with no additions.
Second.
And moving seconded. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Consent agenda, minutes of the August 15th meeting and primary election canvass minutes, expenditures of $189,228.47. SD security wire payment, $4,675, no cents. Credit card wire of $22,588.49 and hand check of $18,103.12.
16,000.
16,103.12
Yeah, I'm sorry.
in checks. And then I think the security wire was 4,674.
Man, I'm gonna have to give him glasses check in here.
I'm moving to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make them second as that corrections. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Commission comments, committee reports. Ron?
I did spend a little time yesterday on Junction City Detention Center. They're doing a lot of modernization in their cells and things. And I think one thing that was quite interesting was they're having monitors now where they can monitor the inmates, their vitals, without having anything hooked to the inmate. And also they've got new teachers brought in too. So that's working out pretty well. So the facility's running well and things are under control. So I wanted to report that back.
Thank you, Ron Lynn.
Earlier this morning, I was over at Junction City for the Military Affairs Council breakfast, and it's kind of a community partnership with Junction City County of Erie County and surrounding counties and Fort Riley. Dr. Eggleston, he's the superintendent of USD 475, was the speaker, gave a great overview. And, we have so many military people that have continued to move in our county and also have a presence here. It's helpful to meet some of the people over there and be involved. Also, I thought it was kind of interesting. Their school district is pretty big, 7,300 students. And you look at the size of Abilene and they have that many students. And one trend that was pointed out that I thought was kind of interesting is their busing has increased and fewer of the students with driver's license or taking driver's ed. And no statistics to back it up, but some surmise that some of the driving has to do with interaction over the years. And now sometimes the cell phone gives you that interaction without, and then the economic factors. But anyway, they have a lot to deal with and do a great job with it. Next week, I am going to attend a special meeting for Central Kansas Mental Health, and the board is going to give some consideration to some new developments over there that we're going to be acting on. So that's all I have.
Thank you, man. Earlier this morning, Tim Hamilton, our planning and zoning administrator, was in, gave an update on his department. And Hannah Rothschild, our finance director and assistant county administrator, I gave it a budget workshop.
Marley, we can't close that. This is a public hearing.
I'm sorry.
It's a public meeting. We have to leave it open.
Okay, but I cannot.
Okay, we'll try to speak loud. Okay, I'm sorry.
Agree.
That's fine, thank you.
We've had that happen before where it seems the logical thing because of noise out in the hallway to kind of solve that. But that is something regulation wise. It has to be an open door.
Presentation, commission proclamations, none. Public comments. We'll start off with the Marcus giving an update on the budget for the public hearing. We open the public hearing. Oh, yeah, we got to wait till 11:05.
11:05, yes.
Get up there and stand around.
If you want to open the
Yeah.
budget hearing there.
That was 11:05.
It'll take me that long to get it up, so just bear with me.
We're there now.
So I think you can go ahead and open it and I'll just speak during the.
Well, you know, you'd think it would work like that, right?
Sorry.
The way my day goes.
On the screen.
There we go.
While we're getting that ready, I am Marcus Rothschild. I'm the Assistant County Administrator and Finance Director for Dickinson County.
There we go.
Today is the budget hearing for the 2025 Dickinson County budget. The budget is a long process. I've been working with all of the department heads, elected officials, everyone for the entire year at this point. So we really meet almost weekly, daily at different times. All of those department heads come in and present to the county commission. We have a variety of meetings and minutes. So today we kind of bring it all together, want to offer a brief summary, and then obviously give plenty of time for the public to speak as well. Looking at the budget, one of the first things, the budget is really your financial roadmap and planning tool for the upcoming year. It is still estimated, you know, none of these are necessarily set in stone, but it gives you that guidance so that we have the ability and the taxing authority to actually go out and provide the services necessary. The fiscal year 2025 total budget is $34,306,358, which covers 37 different funds. The 2025 budget includes a mill levy reduction of 0.771, which lowers the total property taxes collected for the 2025 year by $14,448 compared to 2024. So the Dickinson County budget, it consists of 22 budgeted funds and an additional 15 that are non-budgeted. They're still listed on the state budget every year, so you can see those non-budgeted funds, but just based off of the state law, those basically what we do is we have to report the expenditures and the revenue of the previous year on those additional 15 funds. There are 6 tax levied funds, and these are the funds that you'll see that affect your property taxes each year. And that's the general fund, the road and bridge fund, the health department, the health fund, noxious weed, EMS, bond and interest, courthouse renovation, and jail project. So I want to take a look at just the overall budget summary. A lot of times this can bring up a lot of conversations throughout the community, a lot of concerns. And so I want to try to be able to help and bring some guidance on this. So if you look at the very top, and it's kind of cut, I'm not taking any information off of this form. All I did, there's some blank sheets, blank slots on the state form. So I went ahead and just cut those out so I could fit it onto this page for our presentation purposes only. You'll see at the top, that you've got the general fund, road and bridge, health, noxious weed, EMS, and the PVC bond for the courthouse renovation. So those are your property tax levied funds. So that's when you are looking at your property tax bill, those are the funds that's actually helping to support with your property tax dollars. So down towards the bottom, you'll see all of the rest of the funds, which are either going to be, these all either have a special revenue, some of them are sales tax funds, or they're an enterprise fund where their own fees collected are what actually fund and operate that entire service. So none of those funds below are actually funded through property tax dollars. So it's really just the funds at the top, which is a pretty small number. So you'll see the total tax dollars for this year, which is actually going to come in at $34,306,358. That looks significantly higher than those previous years, and that has brought up some concern. I've seen the comments out in social media and places of that nature, and so I just wanted to be able to bring some of that to you today to kind of point out a few of the highlights from it. So what you see on the 2024 side, where the total expenditures were actually $27,983,000. Well, that includes $4 million that's put in there for the 800 radio or countywide communication project. That has a sales tax that's going to be attached to that is going to reimburse those funds, but we're still going to see that expenditure coming out of 2024. So a lot of times when you do see these large increases, there's actually an anomaly that stands out in those years. So if you look over the years and you say, wow, that budget just went up by $4 to $5 million, what's going on? Well, this is a pretty straightforward case of where we got almost $4 million of additional funds that is to help fund that communication project that was voted on by the voters of Dickinson County and passed so that we can offer those 800 radio tower equipment and 800 radios to help with public safety throughout the entire county. That's going to be funding a number of entities. It's not just our county employees. We actually kind of put that together so that we can help to, for one, make sure we're getting the best prices by putting all of the entities that need that technology together, and to make sure that we can help facilitate that and get all of the equipment for our other public safety entities. And then with the 2025 budget, there's a number of factors there as well. Every year, the proposed budget, what it does is it actually entails all of your carryover funds, any reserves that may be in place for some of these funds. You have to have a cash reserve in place to make sure that you are covered in case of an emergency or unseen circumstances. And so although you see this as that budget authority for expenditures, does not mean that we've actually budgeted all of those expenditures. That just means that that's the total where you're looking at your cash balances and revenue coming in, all of those projections coming in. And for instance, here I pointed out a couple of kind of higher numbers. Once again, we have the countywide communication project. We're anticipating, a payment each year to pay back that 3.898 million of about 1.2, as we're going to be paying that back with the sales tax that's collected at that time. And then also the highway sales tax, which is another sales tax that was voted on by the people to make sure that we're able to provide high quality roads for everyone in Dickinson County. And that sales tax right now, you can see over the last couple of years, has spent around $1 million. Well, we're generating right now about 1.6 to 1.7 of sales tax revenue on that fund. And the balance, including the additional 1.6 for 2025, is going to be around that $5 million. Now, we do have projects in the works. And so I know that a lot of that, as we continue to move forward, when you look at roads, bridges, unfortunately, they're not getting any cheaper. It is expensive to keep up with those at this time. And so those sales tax dollars are going to go to very good use. I can tell you, I appreciate it when I'm driving on Dickinson County roads. As soon as you cross over to a different county, and I don't want to, badmouth any other counties, but I will tell you, I would stand with our highway, road and bridge department any day of the week, because you can feel it the second you cross that county line sometimes. And we really do have some good roads. If you haven't had an opportunity to get on to Old 40 since they've redone that, between Abilene and Chapman, it's a very smooth ride. And I am very thankful for that, as I have a 15-year-old son who just started driving this year, and I'm already nervous enough with him on the road. So I'm happy to know he's going to be in a good place. This is your mill levy history for the last 10 years. Now, I think this really speaks to the commission for holding staff accountable over the last 10 years. When you look at this, we're actually only at a 0.83 mils higher, so less than 1 mil higher than we were 10 years ago. Now you can see it kind of climbed a couple of years. There was the building renovation that came into place, but as the assessed valuation has climbed, and we know we've all seen that with the market values of our properties and things of that nature, the county has been pulling back for 4 years in a row to try to lower that mill levy and try to be as responsible as possible with those property tax dollars. So here you can kind of see how that works. You see the county tax levy rate in that third column, which is the 53.8. You have to divide that by 1,000. Sometimes it gets a little confusing when we're actually calculating this, but the county residential property rate is 11.5%. And so this is how you take your market value of your property, you multiply it by the assessment ratio, and then that will provide you your assessed valuation. With the assessed valuation, you take that times the county tax levy rate, which is the tax levy I was talking about, 53.8, and that will equal your annual county taxes that are due. So for instance, coming off of last year, a $100,000 home, at this point this year would require from the county $618.70. Last year, that would have actually been $7.36 higher. I know that's not a lot of money, but every little bit that we can take off each year helps. And last year, we were able to do the same thing. I will mention, and I even brought my own tax revenue neutral rate sheet here with me, because unfortunately, just because you lower the tax rate, it doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't see on your own individual taxes an increase. Now, it's not across the board because the total taxes we're collecting is actually less than it was last year, but some homes, their value may have gone down, some are going to go up. Overall, the total collected is going to be about $14,000 less than last year. But on my home personally, our value did go up by $8,000. And so although the county is lowering the mill levy rate, I actually will still pay $28.80 more in taxes to the county this year. But overall, in my position and at the time in my life and where I'm looking at, I'm still happy to see that my property is increasing, because I'd be much more concerned if I was looking at a property that's declining every year, because that's not necessarily the county I want to live in. If you start thinking that your property is going to be losing value every year. Next, I always like to do this each year, kind of just give a breakdown. So this is using a home that's worth, we're going to say, a value of $175,000. And just I want to give you an idea of where those dollars go. So if you have a $175,000 home, you're going to be looking at paying property taxes to the county of about $1,082.73. So in that year, $692.46 is going to go towards the general fund. The general fund includes a large number of services. I wasn't able to list them all on this form, but you have your public safety, as in sheriff and jail, you have emergency management, EMS services, dispatch, your county attorney, the clerk, election, register of deeds, treasurer, and the appraiser's office. And there's more on top of that I was not even able to list on here. But so that's what you're paying for with that $692.46 of your property taxes. For the roads and bridges, once again, we'll touch more on road and bridge later, where I'll be able to give you some numbers on the amount of miles that are covered with our highway, road and bridge. But for that $175,000 home, about $263.26 of those property tax dollars is going to go towards providing those highway, road, and bridge funds for you. When you get to the health department, you're looking about $30.09. Noxious weed, $30.63. And then for the courthouse renovation, it's about $5.33 EMS bond interest, which is $5.33 for the EMS renovation that was done in previous years. And that's about to fall off within a couple of years as well. But the courthouse renovation is about $60.96 of your property tax bill. Now I'm just going to touch on the Dickens County on revenue sources. Unfortunately, pretty limited on our revenue sources that we can collect from the county. And so in order to provide all these services, that's why it feels like so much of it is relied on ad valorem taxes. That's why sometimes that property tax you can see is over $14 million, and it's obviously a much larger amount than anything else on there. That's why sometimes when we have special projects, we do go to the voters and ask them if they're willing to support that project, if it would make sense to have a sales tax. Sometimes the sales tax can be seen as a more fair tax because it's not only us who live here in Dickinson County that are sharing that cost. We may be able to help the people who are visiting Dickinson County as well. They may be able to help support, go towards some of those projects. So sometimes it makes sense to pass a sales tax, although none of us want to pay additional sales tax either. But it is one of those opportunities where I feel like it could be a little more fair, and hopefully some of our tourism and some of those things that are coming to Dickinson County can at least help fit that bill for us as well. Then you'll see the other fees almost look pretty nominal across the board compared to property tax and sales tax. And that's why a lot of those you see in reality why it's in state law that we have to offer so many of these services, because unfortunately most of them are not necessarily profitable businesses, or they'd probably be in the private sector. So they come to the public sector, and in order to, that just requires us to offer these services, and that's where the property tax comes in play to help on those. Now looking at the major expenditures compared to the prior year, you can see that the majority of this is, they're relatively almost the same compared to last year. So there's not a lot of significant changes. The one that you'll see as we go across the board, so the general fund, here in 2025, we're looking at $16,992,296 in expenditures compared to $16,960,000 last year, so relatively flat. Same thing with the highway, road, and bridge. It's actually, we're pulling back a little bit in 2025 to help with the property tax there. Then you go into the highway sales tax, that may make up for it a little bit, where you see that there is about a $1.5 million increase. Once again, that $5 million, that does not mean that there is a plan in the works to spend the full $5 million, but that is the funds that we're anticipating will be available in 2025. And then when you look across the board on environmental services, we're pulling back on expenditures in 2025. The health department is, we're going to see a slight increase there. The noxious weed department's pulling back a little bit as well, and then everything else is relatively close last year until you see that countywide public safety sales tax, and that's just because it was not in place prior to. So now we'll look at staffing. Obviously, staffing is a major part of the budget every year. We do have 147 full-time employees with Dickinson County, and you can see how that's spread out with obviously the sheriff and jail is the largest portion between those two departments. They have about 43 employees, or this is what we're budgeting for 2025, 43 employees for the sheriff and jail. EMS with 21 is about the next largest. And then you go down to road and bridge with 18. Once you get past the emergency communications, which is your dispatch, then everything else drops to under 10 employees for all the other departments. This just kind of gives you a breakdown on showing where a lot of those dollars go and how a large portion of it is for your public safety and for highways. So those are pretty critical roles that the county does offer. And that's a big portion of our budget by function every year. Next, I just wanted to kind of give a few highlights by department. The highway department, once I talked earlier, they have 205 miles of paved roads to maintain, 108 additional miles of gravel road also to maintain. In this last year, they did 15 miles of overlay, 17 miles of chip seal, and 98 miles of paint striping. Bridge replacement, the county is responsible for 300 bridges and 1,300 plus structures of under 20 feet. And you can kind of see a few highlights there of that's some actual work that has gone on over this last year from our county highway department. Next, we have noxious weed and environmental services. So if you ever pass a tractor that's mowing along the side of a county road, that's likely going to be our environmental services guys. They also get some help from the highway department as well, and to cover that. And then those funds are paid out of environmental services when we have to borrow some staffing for that. They do spray for bindweed and musk thistle. 20,000 plus acres of bindweed and 12,000 plus acres of musk thistle are treated each year. We have an additional 10,000 plus tons of waste that goes through our transfer station every year. 1,500 plus gallons of latex paint is recycled, 2,500 plus gallons of used oil, and over 20 plus tons of e-waste go out each year as well. The district court, now some of these numbers, I put a note there at the bottom. There was a statewide court computer system cybersecurity incident that actually occurred between October 23 and January 24. So we don't actually have full stats on all of this yet, but what they were able to provide me with, there's already been 3,172 cases that were filed, and they've received over $18,373 in restitution. The sheriff and jail, 729 citations were issued, 4,526 civil processes served, 2,791 traffic stops, 58 drug-related arrests. The jail has processed over 887 individuals and has an average of about 40 inmates in their population. EMS staff, over 2,600 plus calls that they've responded to, 1,700 plus patient transport. The average time for calls is around just slightly over an hour, and the average time on scene is about 21 minutes. I did want to highlight as well, with the closing of the Harrington Hospital, the call volume has started to increase in that part of the county. So, and that can add to that average time on calls, which the concern on that is when you're limited on your ambulances, obviously the longer they are out, if more calls were to come in within that time, it just offers a little more cause for concern if we had incidents all happen at the same time. So they do their best to get back as fast as possible so that there is another truck available when needed. The health department, they still administer vaccines. They are seeing a lot of foot care services provided. And although they weren't able to offer the WIC services, I think back in like 2020, because of some issues that were going on with COVID, now there's women and children's services are being offered again today. The county clerk's office, they've had a big year this year with 3 elections already on the books. We have the November election still coming up that Jeannie and her office are preparing for. 13,500 plus registered voters are in the county, and they assist and prepare 50 plus homestead tax returns as well in their office. The treasurer's office is almost always busy if you come through here. There's 91 taxing entities receive funds through the county. They've processed over 31,000 motor vehicle transactions and 3,000 driver's license or ID renewals each year. The appraiser's office, they have to, per statute, visit 1/7 of the over 14,000 parcels in the county annually. So they are one of the vehicles that sometimes you might see out and about throughout the county as they are annually visiting thousands of parcels each year. The Planning and Zoning Department has issued 45 building permits this year to date. 10 of those are single family homes and 35 accessory structures. And then another big part is our IT and GIS, which seems to grow in importance every day as we see more cybersecurity issues and challenges. It makes every day it seems like we come in and somewhere in the country we see a government agency or a large corporation or somebody who has had a cybersecurity incident. We have an excellent IT and GIS department, and they do everything they can to help protect us from that every day. And they continue to educate all staff members on a regular basis to make sure that we're staying diligent on that. And then we also have, you're good. I was going to talk about the website searches. It's probably not overly important, but over 1,500 people per day actually visit the Dixon County website. We also offer emergency management. Chansey has helped to combine a team of over 110 CERT, which is Community Emergency Response volunteers for Dickinson County. Chansey is very active in the emergency management region. He participates in a number of trainings throughout the year, which really helps to make sure that it can ensure Dickinson County is going to have the mutual aid needed if an emergency is to come into place, and to make sure that we're all trained and properly ready to handle those. Also in dispatch downstairs at 911, there are 2 dispatchers on duty 24/7, 365. You can see in 2023, they took over 41,000 calls. The texts to 911 are still staying pretty small. It hasn't really grown much, but there is over 200 texts to 911. And that can be a case where sometimes if you were in a situation that you did not feel comfortable speaking or able to make a call, you are still able to send a text to 911 and they can respond to that text. So that can be a benefit that maybe just some people aren't quite aware of yet or aren't comfortable with, or not thinking if you're in a emergency situation, that may not be your first line of thought. They have helped assist with over 27,000 calls for police, fire. County attorney Brock came into place last year and has done a great job. He has 505 criminal cases filed, 1,117 traffic cases filed, 69 juvenile criminal cases, 47 child in need of care cases, and 1 jury trial. The Register of Deeds office, they filed over 3,000 documents in 2023. Of those, 1,267 were deeds and 691 mortgages. So overall, I go through that a lot just to provide a little touch on how many services the county does offer each year and just where those tax dollars are going. And with that, I will open myself up to any questions from the commission, or we can move on to
Public panel. Anyone have any questions for Marcus?
I don't have questions.
The one thing on the servicing the debt, as far as on the renovation and so on, there's a certain number of years that we have before we could consider refinancing. So I guess that's something that we can be watching. That hasn't occurred yet. And the interest rates haven't been helpful, but in the event that they would take a turn that would be helpful for us, that would be an option we might have a few years from now.
Yes, and that is something that we do continuously monitor. And as interest rates were to come back, if we see a pullback in interest rates, we'll always be looking at any of our large debt to see if there's some savings for the community on that.
That's all I have.
I'll open the public hearing. Any member of the public wish to speak, please click the podium and name and address, and we'll limit to 3 to 5 minutes.
My name is David Brundage. Do you want my specific street address, or I'm from Abilene?
Got to work for you, Jeannie.
Close enough. Okay. Really appreciate your information. I understand the difficulty of putting together a budget for a large entity, though not on this scale, of course. And I appreciate the fact that the mill levy's coming down slightly for the county itself. I just want to be a voice, though, that as the mill levy comes down slightly, at the same time with inflation, where property taxes, valuations, let's start there, where valuations of our properties are going up significantly with the mill levy coming down, we still are having those, the overall property tax amounts increasing. And I appreciate y'all really fighting and trying to keep things under control as much as possible. With multiple entities, though, all snagging a piece of the pie, just speaking as the working class kind of a fellow, where incomes are not increasing at the same rate as inflation or anywhere close. And so the cost of living going up dramatically, please really fight to hold that line and keep our costs as reasonable as we can. Great concern that I know for myself and for others that I have a lot of contact with. I'm already seeing people that I know, hardworking people working multiple jobs, who are having to sell their homes simply because they can't afford all the costs associated with that home, the peripheral things, not having to do with the actual mortgage payment, but property taxes and insurance costs and so on. So please continue to fight to keep things under control just as much as we can.
Thank you. Somebody next?
Hello, Joseph Tatner, 106 North Vine Street, Abilene, Kansas. Basically, I'm here to piggyback on what he said. I am very fortunate. I work from home. I have a job where I have a pretty good salary. And I bought my house as a foreclosure, so it was low in the price. The first place locked it in at a 2.5% interest rate. So I'm very smart, but I'm also very lucky and very blessed. And I realize that. I also realize how tough it is, as he said, for budgeting. I think if I'm reading this correctly, and I'm a words guy, not a numbers guy, I think my property tax is going up like 5% or whatever on average. But 5% over 10 years is a 50% increase. And like I said, I can afford it. I made some good decisions, got very lucky and moved here, and I love this place. But there are people that cannot afford it, and I appeal to you. Did you know that Kansas, out of the top 50 high tax states, is number 17? I had a chance to buy a house here in Kansas before, and I said no, because I looked and the property taxes were literally, so high in this country. We're only 2 states behind New York. We have higher property taxes and sales taxes than California. California's sales tax is like 7%. I was shocked when I got to Kansas, especially since we're supposedly a conservative state with fiscal values, So anything you can do to bring this stuff down, because it's not just, 2% here, 3% here, 4% here. It's 4% plus 2% plus 5%. This is crushing inflation. The people that work at Dollar General, that are trying to make tossed and sauce run, Brookville Hotel, the staff workers, they're getting hammered. Inflation is down to 2% now in the country, but that's on top of 9, on top of 5, on top of 4. And I had a time in my life when I would go to the supermarket and I would almost cry in public because I could afford nothing. I've been there. I've done that. I know what these people are feeling. I literally would buy a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and an 85-cent pack of the cheapest hot dogs, and use the bread for a bun. By the way, that's why I use the best hot dogs in my place now. But, I've been there. And so when you're trying to get more money, the people you're trying to get it from have less to give. So maybe it's too late for this budget, but certainly think about it for this budget and for the budgets going forward. Anything you can do to really knock down the service fees, the taxes, whatever, because it all adds up when you're on a fixed income and it's low, or you have to get a second job, which means you don't get to see your kids that much and spend the quality time with them or with your spouse. And it's just pressure that destroys families. So just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. You can raise taxes. Please don't. find some place to cut wherever you can. And again, maybe it's a little late for this budget, but certainly going forward, really, really think about things that we can cut without hurting, the community, but that will give all of us a break. Thank you.
Is this for that or?
No, public hearing
For the budget.
yeah.
Okay, so since it's not coming from her, I have to make some notes. I was gonna also ask you, how do you volunteer for emergency services?
That, if I can get your name and information, I'll get you with Chancey and you can reach out to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. So,
Name and address.
sorry. Whitney Garacki, 1547 May Street, Hope, Kansas.
Thank you.
So I was talking to a guy that I know, and he was actually looking into getting his property, which I don't feel is correct either, but he's looking into getting his property put down for nuclear waste in Dickinson County. I'm not going to say his name. I'm just, if he wants to come forward and talk to you guys about it. But anyways, so anyways, I guess he had watched the zoning board meeting and said that basically most of the regulations are the same as wind turbines. And again, I don't want wind turbines, but I don't want nuclear waste in someone's yard in Dickinson County either. But he said, well, since with the wind turbines, they're saying, it goes against property rights if you tell them no, right? I mean, that's one thing that I wanted to bring up with you guys. I don't know if when he's going to bring it forward to you. I think he was going to wait until after the wind turbine situation to see what happened. He's going to get a lump sum of money to dump the waste on his property. That doesn't sound good to me. Money, the property rights, the same regulations, and that the county would have to get water filters the same as wind turbines, which I don't know if that's ever been acknowledged. Let's see. Sorry.
So is this more of a zoning issue you're asking
Well,
rather than, because this part we're in is for the budget.
oh, okay.
Opt.
That's why I asked, is it for this or is it? Okay. Well, I'll wait then if,
Yeah, I'll take
Okay.
this maybe and then come back with that.
okay.
Anybody else for the public hearing on the budget? Anybody online?
Nobody has their hand raised.
Move we close the budget hearing.
I'll second it.
Need a motion to approve the county budget as published.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as published.
I'll second it. Any other discussion?
Only to bring out, I appreciate the comments and I think all of us, and from what I hear, have a concern with prices and cost of living, but also people want services provided in a meaningful way and that's consistent with what we've done in previous years. But we did begin this budget process back several months ago, and department heads and other elected officials brought forward information. And there were times that there were some ideas or wants that they had that we either deferred or decided that that would not be part of the budget. So from what the ask was and what some of the things brought forward, a lot of this has been trimmed down. And so it's something we look at very seriously. And so even after a budget is approved throughout the year, there's budget authority there, but those in departments and elected officials still have opportunity that they don't have to spend that total amount. And as they budget and decide this, we can put this off, or we can do without, or we can wait for other technology to come forward, that money that is not spent at that time ends up carrying over, to the next year. So that's all I had. Someone has their hand up. I don't know if we.
Yes, go ahead.
I apologize. I just would ask the question, okay, so we have a budget. If you guys approve the budget, then does the mill levy just automatically adjust and correct to fit that budget to where, I mean, is the approval of the budget saying that's how much money we need to have come in? And then it just automatically pours forward to.
Yeah, and I'm not, the biggest thing is we've appropriated the money that we can't exceed it. That's the short answer to it. We just can't exceed. We can always spend less, than said, which we hope, the commissioners do. But getting back to the deal, it won't change.
But if you guys were to approve a budget, say that was twice this amount.
Right.
If you guys approve it, boom, it's set, and then it's up to the appraiser's office and treasurer's office to just send out the assessments and everybody pays at that amount. I'm just trying to understand the process. I'm not criticizing the process. Just want to understand it.
It may be something that you could visit with the finance director later on some of that. But the other thing is there's a revenue neutral rate, and that's something that you will not exceed your budget above that. And so we're below that revenue neutral rate. So what I like to see personally is it's level.
Right.
I really don't care to see it go way up, way down. Sometimes if you cut back too much and then something unforeseen happens or an emergency type disaster, and we've had a bridge, for example, go out that we didn't plan on that. So when those events occur, we kind of want some sort of a cushion, you might say, to take care of that, but it needs to match up with what's realistic too.
We can set up a time, Marcus and I, or you and Marcus, to visit and go over that and walk through, because there's a lot of steps that go into it without a doubt. So.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, other comments on other issues that are not on the agenda? No, that's fine. I should have caught it before.
I don't really have anything else to say.
You might go back to high.
You go back 15. So yeah, he was just discussing about how things are similar with the wind turbines and how nuclear waste dump sites are. You have to be so far away from residents, just the same things. So I was just curious on y'all's thoughts. I know you don't normally answer, but on the difference between the two. I don't really want either, but yeah, so he said since he's got property rights and he owns the property, he can do what he wants with it, right? So I don't know. With the water filters, that the county is going to need different water filters if they do
Well,
Other ways?
process wise, if someone wants to do something with their property that is not, say, ag use, they want to change the use of their property,
Right,
they would have to go through to get a conditional use permit.
okay,
And then all of the factors involved would be considered, and it would go before the planning board
okay,
and zoning. And then they would consider what was proper or improper
right,
and give a recommendation to us. And, obviously federal law would
right,
supersede state law and state law over county law and so on. But all of that would be considered. So
so like with the wind turbines, since we're on ag and they're industrial, so does that change that or no?
That's still part of the conditional use permit that they're going through.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so that's what thing that the planning and zoning board would look at in the regulations in section 21 of our zoning
Okay.
regulations.
All right,
but basically, it's not anything goes. It has to go
Right.
through that process to consider
right,
what's,
okay,
If your friend has questions about this, he really should reach out to Tim, our planning and zoning director,
Okay.
and start that conversation.
okay,
Yes.
I'll let him know. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Board of County Administrator Janelle.
Commissioners, the HR director and our payroll clerk are attending the annual CIC symposium. And this is the software that we use to provide all of the budgetary accounts payable, accounts receivable, human resources. So it's our chance to bring in questions and requests to upgrade or make changes for the software to make it go a little smoother on the process that we use. The highway department's out blading roads. We've had a little moisture, so we know that the gravel roads need some work and they're out working on that. EMS is interviewing for open positions in EMS and hopefully we'll be able to fill one of those shortly. Dispatch also has a couple open positions. We'll start looking at that and getting those filled. She has a trainee right now. Purple Wave auction, we had quite a few things that were on the auction list, and I believe it was $87,000 that we received, with the bulk of it probably going to go back into asset forfeiture for the sheriff's department. But we had some nice sale items on there and received some extra money on that and a few things highway department. The emergency manager is participating in a hazard mitigation training plan. If we have a hazard mitigation plan, which we do, and it needs to be updated annually, and the cities also participate in this, that allows us to look for different grants, and that it's a requirement of a lot of the grants that we would apply for. So it's a pretty important piece that Chancey's working on. The other thing, in fact, he's doing this today. He is teaching a CERT class, a community emergency response team class at the Abilene High School. He's done that for the past several years in Harrington, and the Harrington High School team is part of another program that they have competed nationally through the CERT, with the CERT program, and has won some awards. So we're pleased that we have another high school in the county that's doing that, and he's going to be reaching out to the other high schools as well. And it's a proud moment for us. Alyssa Boss has been appointed by the governor to the state of Kansas 911 coordinating office. And a former employee, which you are familiar with, Sherry Massey, is now the director of that state department. So we're thrilled for both of them. So that's all I would have.
Any questions for Janelle? County Councilor Doug.
Thank you. I have been working with the title company and expect to have a title report for those parcels of real estate that are delinquent in their tax sales, to the point that we would move forward with the tax sale for the sale of that property. And there may be quite a bit, I don't know yet because I haven't seen the report, but I expect that there will be a large number of parcels of real estate that individuals have not paid their taxes on. Second thing is I've been working with the recovery, court recovery, for those who have had problems with addiction of meth and other situations that are causing problems for them. So I've been working with that for Abilene for Dickinson County. And I'm going to be doing the same also for Geary County to be able to help them to get up to speed and with their recovery report. And that's just starting. It'll probably start January in Geary County. That's all I have.
Any questions for Doug?
Thank you.
Jeannie, you want to give us an election update?
Yes,
Our final, I guess?
the final totals from our canvas, we have a total of 13,593 registered voters, and we had 3,550 ballots cast for a 26.11% turnout. And after we had our audit, the state, there was a discrepancy between the election night totals and then what our handoff count audit was. So the state had us recount again, and we found the discrepancy was that we have a person that our vendor sends that is hired to run the ballots through the machine. We found out she accidentally ran 19 ballots in one ward in one party, and that's where the discrepancy was. And just to be safe, we hand counted the whole election just to make sure that the totals were correct, and the state approved those totals. And we have sent the totals now with the canvas, and they have approved those totals. So we're asking you to sign the abstract of votes counted so that they can be permanently put in our records. Do you have any questions?
I do, Jeannie. The 19 ballots that were sent in by these other folks, they were blank or were they?
Those were voted. That's how we found the discrepancy.
They just ran through the machine twice.
Right.
Okay, they ran them through twice. Okay.
And we worked with our vendor and they analyzed that. They could tell, and they admitted that that's the only way that could have happened.
Any other questions for Jeannie? Any other questions for Jeannie? Okay, come on. Notice of communications. We got,
We do need to go ahead and do, well, I guess I'll be later. Never mind.
thank you.
To approve that will be later.
Yep. Communications, we have a grad court graduation September 11th at 3:30. And we did get, I don't know if everybody got this, but it was in my mail, lady from Kay Hoffman regarding the wind farm in Lincoln County, Nebraska, Lincoln County, Oklahoma. We have no resolutions or notifications.
You might have copies made of that, because I don't think I received
Okay.
that. So it was probably sent to you to distribute to the commissioners,
Yeah.
Kay Hoffman. Okay,
Oh, it was sent in the mail, I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, you should have an envelope in your packet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. Had one from the 8th Judicial. Okay, well, I'll look for that later. If I don't have it, I'll get a
I'll make
copy.
sure you have it.
Right here.
Okay. I'll make sure you.
Okay, thank you.
No unfinished business, other business, we signed. We don't have to make a motion to sign those. We need to make a motion to sign the ballot.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make that motion, we sign the election signature page.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Bids for structural steel for 1645. He's got her excellent eventually.
1646.
500 Avenue.
1646 500 Avenue. Commissioners,
Yeah, whatever you said.
okay. This is a 20-foot structure that we need to replace, and we sent out bids for flat iron, angle iron, the H-pile, the sheeting, and we received bids on the structural steel portion of this from Odin in the amount of $18,514.61. From Wellborn Sales for $19,725.28. Husker Steel, $19,611 even, and Salina Steel for $25,461.59. So the recommendation is to accept a bid for structural steel from Odin at the $18,514.61.
Any other questions for Janelle? I entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
I'll make the motion then. I'm just entertaining the motion.
I'll make a motion to.
I'll second it then.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Commissioners, the other piece that goes with that is the deck sheeting. And it's 12 gauge aluminized 24-foot sheeting that we'll need, and several pieces that go along with that. And there's only one vendor that ever bids on this. There's only one vendor that supplies it. That's from Wellborn Sales in the amount of $25,392 even. So staff is recommending accepting the bid from Wellborn in that amount.
I'll move that we accept the staff recommendation from Wellborn Sales of $25,392 for the deck sheeting.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Anything else come before the commission today? We do have next week, we will be having an employee end of year barbecue at August 29th, 11:30 to 1:30 in the meeting basement room. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. You said,
I'll entertain. I didn't say I was going to.
I said so moved.
Okay, okay. I'll second it then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Stand adjourned.